everybody and welcome to another Doctor Who review. This time it's a review of an 8th Doctor story. It's Neverland. Okay, let's go over the plot line for this story. The Doctor takes Charlie back to Gallifrey, knowing that she's a problem of a time rift. The Time Lords have also noticed this, realising that Charlie is the nexus point of all the effects that are happening to time. Time is unravelling, and Charlie is seen as the gateway into the answers they need to solve the problem. The Gallifreyans have created a time ship, which will allow them to go through Charlie as a gateway into Neverland, a world of anti-time. It's found that the world of anti-time is populated by Gallifreyans and Time Lords who have been dispersed. Some of them are very bitter, and one of them, in the form of Charlie, has been trying to work on Gallifreyan law to tempt some Time Lords in. The Time Lords who go in are President Romana and the head of the CIA, the Celestial Intervention Agency, Van Sel, along with the Doctor and Charlie. Charlie ultimately isn't affected by the effects that have happened with the paradox that she's created, but initially she is used as the vessel to get through to anti-time. The leader of the anti-time has set a trap on a stable planet in anti-time, which happens to be a large TARDIS. It's found that this TARDIS contains the remains of Rassilon, and using the nursery rhyme of Zagreus, the anti-time beings have managed to tempt some Time Lords into their realm. The idea being they take a supposed coffin or tomb of Rassilon back to Gallifrey. If this coffin gets through transduction barriers in Gallifrey, what will end up happening is anti-time will feed into Gallifrey, and then the whole of time collapses around itself. It's down to the Doctor and Romana to stop this. Van Sel ends up getting killed in the process after being initially taken over by the anti-time creatures, and the Doctor ends up stopping the explosion by surrounding his TARDIS around the time ship, ensuring when the explosion happens it's the Doctor that gets most of the energy, and ends up becoming the creature of the nursery rhyme. The Doctor has become Zagreus. There we go. There is a quick synopsis of the plot for this story. Let's have a look at the cast and have a discussion about some of the characters in this story. We have the Doctor played by Paul McGann. Paul McGann's 8th Doctor here is really a culmination of all the different characteristic traits that Paul McGann has pursued in this series of audio adventures for Big Finish. This one being the last of the 6 stories of this run. We see the side that doesn't want to kill, we see the caring Machiavellian, we see the sarcastic side, we see the side that seems to have regrets and guilt, and we have obviously the sharp intelligence of the Doctor, as we normally do. And McGann plays every single facet of the 8th Doctor with aplomb. It really is a very strong performance, and I'm not quite sure if he nails the grace at the end. The thing with McGann with his shouting voice, it always seems a bit weird to me, and I don't know if it's just the way that it comes across, but it doesn't seem like the most kind-hearted voice and soft voice, and then all of a sudden it gets this rather aggressive tone, and that bit always kind of is weird for me. It's strange, but you know what? It's a great little performance. I think it works really well, and it's a nice one to have. We've then got India Fisher playing Charlie Pollard. I love the fact she's got a dual role here, because she's got that kind of ghostly anti-time version of herself that she plays as well, and it shows a different range for India Fisher overall as an actress, and shows why she's become such a well-known voiceover figure in British television in later years. She's currently the voiceover for MasterChef TV series, and you can see her vocal talents come out here between the two of them. The kind of not foppish, but kind of like, oh, Doctor, and the kind of slight feigning she has in this one does grate a little bit, because there's strength in Charlie. She's very headstrong, and sometimes some of the things she says and her deep concern and love for the Doctor kind of overpowers the rest of it and makes her sometimes a weak companion. This one, she's alright, she's fine, she's a bit damsel in distress at times, she's a bit tertiary to the action sometimes, she's not the main focus here, she's kind of like the anchor point for the whole thing with her timeline. You expect her to be a bit more important in this one. I just feel she's not as important as she could be. She's just lacking something. Characters pushed aside a little bit for other characters that are in here. Chiefly Romana, played by Lalla Ward. She's effectively the companion of this story, as I feel. Lalla Ward's Romana fits in quite well with this, and I quite like the way Romana is played here. It's definitely the Romana we know from the TV series, but there's obviously an underlying steel there, which we saw, of course, in the Apocalypse Element on Colin Baker's Big Finish story. And this steel continues here in this story as well, and it's definitely a more mature and older Romana we're talking about here, but certainly not one that you would want to trample over or get in the way of, because this version of Romana seems quite determined, and it's nice to hear, and it's a nicely well-rounded performance. We then have one of the major antagonists of the early part of the Big Finish audio dramas whenever the Gallifrey's involved with any of the Doctors, and that's Coordinator Vansell, played by Anthony Keach. He comes across a bit two-faced, but we then find that actually his loyalties to Gallifrey, there isn't really much in the way of ambition. His ambition to be acting president, that kind of two-facedness has always been underlying in the story, and the Doctor kind of notices that because he calls them quite a few derogatory terms when he first meets Vansell again. But I like the way Vansell's kind of conniving a little bit, but there's ultimately just a strength there. He wants to be the one who ends up, saving Gallifrey and serving Gallifrey, and that becomes very strong near the end, and it really works for that. And I quite like the way that he is portrayed here by Anthony Keach. It's really nicely done. We then have Rassilon, played by Don Warrington. Now, Rassilon has appeared in a couple of the other Doctor Who stories in this season. He was there as part of the conversation of the Doctor reciting in The Matrix the story of Seasons of Fear, because the beginning of Seasons of Fear is like a voiceover, and you hear this sound in the background that we've had all the way through, which indicates the Doctor's in The Matrix, and we see where that comes from in this story and where it links into, which is nice. And Don Warrington shows up in a couple of other stories in this season as Rassilon. Rassilon's not as big a part as you think in this one. He's more like an overseer than an actual big contributing part of this story. His history is used as the bait when they take the supposed coffin of him from Antitime back into the normal universe and nail into Gallifrey with catastrophic results. And it's nice to have that strong imperial voice that you get from Don Warrington, and it works really well because of that. You do have other small characters here. You've got people who've been in the series all the way through. You've got Mark McDonald back again. You've got Lee Moon back again. You've got Nicola Boyce back again doing various roles within the story. Dot Smith makes another appearance as one of the voices in The Matrix. A lot of the characters and actors that we've had in this series have come back and played slightly smaller roles or different roles throughout, and it's nice to see that kind of full circle of ensemble coming in and building up what is actually not a bad little story overall, the way it's been put together. In regards to the story itself, it's interesting. It's 2 70-odd minutes installments, so it's not the traditional 4-episode format. It's a bit different and a bit longer. It's a good half an hour longer than what would be the normal length for this sort of story, but it's got a lot of loose ends to tie up. It ties up the temporal paradox of Charlie. It ties up all the things we've had with the Antitime creatures throughout the whole series. It's a nicely written story, and Alan Barnes does a good job of tying everything together with this and making a story that works for its almost 150 minutes runtime. It does make a very strong case for the story, and it works very well. I think the direction by Gary Russell is tight. It needed to be tight because of the nature of the story. There's a lot of elements going on here, and you can't really have the actors breathe as much, so it's nice to have that tight direction from Gary Russell, and it works quite well for that. The music's not really massive from Nicholas Briggs. It's it's underlying, and the sound design from Master Locke is the same thing. It gives an atmosphere. It never intrudes. It's always there just as a kind of backup to give the tension and the atmosphere a lot more, and it works for that, and I quite like the way it comes across because of that. I think the story is great for a listen in a long term, but it's not something you can really just take and segment it like the rest of them. You do need to concentrate. You also need to know a lot of Doctor Who lore. There's a lot of Doctor Who lore regarding Gallifrey and everything else in here, and it can make it a very difficult listen if you don't understand the lore, so always bear that in mind if you are going to listen to Neverland. It is a lot to take in, and a lot needs to be worked on and taken in, and there is a slightly bigger cast than normal, but they don't interfere like they do with Invaders and Mars or other stories in this season. It's more nuanced, and because it's a longer on time, you get these characters able to breathe a little bit more for what they need to do, but it isn't suffocating and it isn't causing disjointedness. It works for this case, and I have been very strong that tighter the cast, the better the story overall. This one kind of works with a larger cast, but there's a longer runtime. It needs all that runtime to explain everything we have here, so to have it for that length, it doesn't really affect it too much, and sometimes the runtime this season has been a little bit off. This one is kind of bang on. I don't think it could do any less or any more, but it's not a strong narrative in that respect. It's not a riveting story. It's interesting listen, but I'd probably give it a high 3.5 TARDISes out of 5. Bit of a surprise for me, I know, but I've given it 3.5 TARDISes out of 5. Let's see how Neverland stacks up with the rest of the Doctor Who reviews I have done so far for the Big Finish range. Neverland sits in at 3.5 TARDISes out of 5 along with 20 other stories. Some of them include Phantasmagoria, The Fearmonger, The Shadow, The Scourge, The Mutant Phase, Dust Breeding, Project Twilight, and Embrace the Darkness. At the bottom is still 3 stories with 3 TARDISes out of 5. They are Land of the Dead, Winter for the Adept, and Invaders from Mars. And at the top are still 2 stories with 4.5 TARDISes out of 5. They are The Apocalypse Element and The Chimes of Midnight. That's it from me for this Doctor Who review and for the Big Finish reviews for this year. What did you think of Neverland? Leave a comment down below. Do you like it? Leave a comment down below. Are you not so keen or have some criticisms of it? Leave a comment down below. If you like this video, please like it, share it with the hashtag teamstructor. If you like the channel as a whole, please hit that subscribe button and the notifications bell so you know when a new video comes out. In general, new video every second Sunday at 4 PM GMT, but it is December, I've got a bit of catch up to do, and there's another Doctor Who review next week, the last of the year. It is the 2011 Christmas special, The Doctor, the Widow and the Wardrobe. Hopefully you can join me for that. Until next time guys, thanks so much for watching and of course listening, and you know what? I'll see you later.